Hello and welcome. You are live with the New Mexico Department of Transportation. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Going to wait a couple minutes, couple seconds, and give people a chance to join us this evening. Hello to those of you who are joining us. Welcome this evening. We're going to give it just a second, let a couple more people join us this evening before we get started. You are live at the New Mexico Department of Transportation. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. You are live with the New Mexico Department of Transportation. My name is Jennifer Heyer, Environmental Planner with WSP, and I will be facilitating this meeting on behalf of the NMDOT. Thank you for taking your time out of your Tuesday evening to join us tonight for our virtual public information meeting hosted by the New Mexico Department of Transportation. We're excited to share information with you about the New Mexico 31128 project. Specifically tonight, we are going to talk about the portion of the project through the community of Jal. Welcome. Keep in mind that if you are calling and watching in online at the same time, please mute the audio on your computer to avoid any echo or disruptions. If you don't have immediate access to internet, continue to remain on the call line to hear our presentation. Now, before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to go over some housekeeping items. Only our presenters will appear on video tonight. We're also recording this meeting and it will be posted on the NMDOT's project website following the event. Tonight, we are offering Spanish translation during our event. Online participants can access the language channels in the interpretation function in your Zoom toolbar.
Esta noche estamos ofreciendo la interpretación en vivo al español durante nuestro evento. Los participantes en línea pueden acceder a los canales de idiomas en la función de interpretación de Zoom que está al pie de su pantalla. Recomendamos escoger el idioma que prefieren escuchar ahora. Pueden elegir si quieren escuchar el inglés o el español o pueden ir y venir entre ambos si así lo prefieren. Nuevamente, por favor, utilicen la función de interpretación en la barra al pie de su página en Zoom para seleccionar el idioma que les gustaría escuchar esta noche, aunque ese idioma sea el inglés.
Lo siento, Sandra. We recommend choosing the language you would like to listen to now. You can choose between listening in English or Spanish or toggle between both if you prefer. Again, please use the interpretation function in your Zoom toolbar to select the language you'd like to listen to tonight, even if that language is English. Community members are encouraged to participate live at the end of tonight's presentation during the question and answer portion of our event, which will be in about 45 minutes from now. As we move into the Q&A question answer portion at the end of our presentation, there are a few ways to participate live. If you are joining us via Zoom, you can select the raise your hand function under the reaction icon to ask a question live. Or if you are joining through Zoom, you can type your question in the Q&A chat box at the bottom of your screen. If you are joining by phone, you can ask a question by pressing *9 on your telephone keypad. We have a lot of information to share with you tonight, and you may want to get a piece of paper and pen to write down information on the project and how to participate. If you don't have immediate access to internet, continue to stay on the call line to hear our presentation. You can also request to receive a hard copy of tonight's presentation by contacting me through email or telephone. My telephone number is area code 505-878-6577, or my email is nnIFER.HYRE@WSP.com. I'd like to take a minute to recognize our elected officials who are on our call this evening. I'd like to recognize the City of Joel Mayor, Stephen Aldridge. If you would, Mayor, would you unmute yourself and say a few words for us?
Jennifer, it looks like Mayor Aldridge may be running a little bit late, so he's not quite on the line yet. So maybe we can move forward and come back to him.
Okay, we will do that. Someone will let me know when he is able to join. I understand that there's a lot going on these days. Again, on behalf of the NMDOT, welcome to our event and thank you for joining us. My name is Jennifer Heyer, Environmental Planner with WSP, and I will be facilitating this meeting on behalf of the NMDOT. Next, I'd like to hand it over to Michael Smelker to introduce you to our team members who are participating this evening. Michael?
Michael, you are on mute.
Welcome, everybody. I'm sorry about that. Got too excited here. My name is Michael Smelker. I'm the NMDOT Project Development Engineer for this project. It's a design build project that we're actually going from Loving on Mexico 31 all the way through JAL on 128 clear to the state line. So I just want to welcome everybody here. Tonight's meeting will be focusing on the JAL portion of the project. I know the DOT was here a few years ago with you to upgrade the pavement in that area. This project is an extension of that one, where we're taking the design of that one and we're extending it so we can do a lot more improvements within the city of JAL as part of this design build project. And that's what we're here to discuss with you guys tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Francisco Sanchez, our District 2 district engineer, and he'll go ahead and give some welcoming remarks.
Like you said, once again, thank you for spending your evening here today to learn a little bit of what we're trying to do on 128 and 31. You know, these virtual meetings, they're a blessing sometimes because we can reach a lot of people and be in a lot of places, but it's never the same like when we're in person. You know, like Michael said, we were there a couple of years ago to discuss the downtown area, and I wish we were there tonight. Every time I'm in jail, the city of Mayor Aldridge and city staff and all the residents always make me feel at home. They always voice their opinion and the importance of this corridor. And at District 2, we have realized the importance of 128 and 31. That's why we're here. We're here to hear your input and try to get a great project out there to improve safety and the conditions you're seeing out there. Once again, appreciate everybody for being here tonight and look forward to your comments and your questions.
Thank you, Francisco. Tonight, we also have a consultant on board, and the project manager for the project is Terry Ward. He's been working on this project, and he brings great knowledge to this area and throughout the department on this design build project. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Terry and Jennifer and let them go ahead and do this presentation. And we look forward to any of you guys' comments and as much information we can get back from you. Glad to speak with you at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Francisco. We may have a representative for the mayor's office. Matt White, I saw that you had your hand up. Are you here on behalf representing the mayor?
This is the mayor. Matt and I are in
Apologies.
his office. I'd registered at my house and I flat forgot. I didn't think it'd make any difference. But he told me I had work to do up here anyway. I babysitted a grandkid all day, which was better than Matt. But you know, Francisco's right. We began having conversation with DOT back in 2018. Secretary Sandoval and the commissioners met here, had the regional meeting here. We feel like we have a very good working relationship with Francisco and District 2 and Terry and his bunch and Michael. Francisco's right. We don't pull many punches, do we, brother? But we're extremely pleased that they always have a good ear for our input, and it's been incorporated into what the state's trying to get accomplished down here, and we do appreciate it. And we appreciate the relationship that we've been allowed to form from Santa Fe to Roswell. We certainly do appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. We are glad that you are here with us this evening. We're glad that everyone else is here with us this evening for us to present about the JAL segment for the New Mexico 31-128 project. So I'm going to talk a little bit about just what we're going to cover this evening during our presentation. We are going to just recap a little bit of the information that we presented during our public meeting 2 weeks ago on August 31st. We're going to give some background and project context specific to the section of the roadway in JAL. We're going to talk about the NMDOT development process. We're going to next go into the preliminary and recommended alternatives for the portion through JAL, talk about that construction maintenance of traffic, go into a little bit of details about the design build procurement, specifically the phase 1 and project phasing. We'll talk about schedule and next steps, and finally we'll end the meeting with a question answer session, which will be in about 45 minutes from now. Before I get into our presentation, I just want to reiterate actually what Michael was saying. I want to let you know that there are approximately 11 active projects in various stages of development or construction occurring in Eddy and Lee counties right now. Some of those are NMDOT led, while others are city or county led. The purpose and intent of our meeting tonight is to provide information on the NMDOT's New Mexico 31-128 project specific to the roadway section through JAL. We really appreciate you being here. And if you are looking for any information regarding the New Mexico 128 JAL relief route, we encourage you to go to the City of JAL's website for that information. Next, I'm going to just give an overview of the public meeting that we held 2 weeks ago on August 31st. The focus of that meeting was to discuss the entire New Mexico 31-128 project corridor, both segments. There were a number of items that we talked about just for both 31 and 128. We talked about the background of each of those roadway segments. We talked about the project purpose and need. We discussed a number of the existing conditions that we've identified out there, including the traffic density, crashes, some of the access management and utilities, some of the environmental and karst features within the corridor. We'd also discuss some of the oil and gas activity and research that we've been collecting. We talked also about those mainline and intersection preliminary alternatives and gave an overview of what we're looking to do with the overall project. An important focus
Jennifer, you're muted.
Apologies, I lost everything there and came back. Sorry. We'll start that again. Thank you, Terry. An important focus of the project study has been our concerted effort on stakeholder engagement and outreach. As you heard from the mayor, we've been talking with the leadership in JAL. We've been talking to a lot of other stakeholders as well. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of road miles along this segment. To name a few of those that we've been working with, in addition to the leadership at JAL, we've been working with the Eddy and Lee County governments. We've been working with some of our land agency partners, such as the Bureau of Land Management. We've been working with industry, including the United Salt Corporation and Intrepid Potash. We've also been engaging with those industry stakeholder groups, including the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association. We've also been working with and talking to our out-of-state partners, such as TxDOT. If you think we've missed your organization, please reach out to us. We want to talk with you and ensure that we are talking with you and hearing your concerns. As mentioned earlier, we're recording tonight's presentation and it will be posted on the NMDOT's project website. That recording, in addition to a recording of the August 31st public meeting and a lot of other project-specific information, can be found on the NMDOT's project website, which is nm31-128 project.nmdotprojects.org. For those of you who may have just joined, we want to welcome you. We're glad that you are here, whether you are joining us on the phone or online. If you don't have access to internet, please feel free to stay on the call line and listen to our presentation. If you have joined through Zoom, please feel free to select the language you would prefer to be listening in this evening. You can find that in the interpretation function in your Zoom toolbar. Choose between Spanish or English, even if that language is English. Next, I would like to pass it over to Terry Ward, WSP Project Manager, to go over some of the background and project information pertinent to the portion in JAL. Terry?
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. I'd like to start with some traffic background information, I'll call it existing conditions and projected conditions. So what I've highlighted here on a listing of all the corridors on 128 in terms of traffic is I've highlighted the sections in JAL. So you can see this is average daily traffic, which is two-way vehicles per day. The second column is showing in 2019, I'll call it pre-COVID, the sections in JAL range from 10,400 to 6,200. So traffic really dropped off after we got through New Mexico 18 going through JAL. And then in the next column is our projected traffic for 2041. And you can see there is some traffic growth projected, but again, similar conditions where in the eastbound direction, after getting through the New Mexico 18 intersection, traffic does drop off out to Schooley Road. And then finally at the bottom, the percentage of trucks based on our study generally ranged from 20 to 30% along New Mexico 128. So again, just some traffic background. So we're well aware of project traffic delay that can occur. This is a still shot or a photo capture of a video that we received from Matt White and his team down there regarding September 29th, 2019, a Sunday. They took some video in the afternoon, and it's very, very interesting and informative to our team. So if anyone is interested in that video, we could share it, or I'm sure Matt would be more than happy to share that with you. But the point is it really did inform us about the potential conditions of project traffic delay within the JAL community along 128. I want to talk now about some pavement conditions. In JAL, the existing pavements are generally in poor condition. So we will look to reconstruct the pavement in JAL as part of this effort. And we will certainly consider the percentage of trucks and the types of truck vehicles and the weights and the impacts they can have and will have on the pavements. JAL drainage challenges. There's plugged drainage structures. There are some floodplain areas in JAL that we're mindful of and we'll look to a design with. And we're well aware of the drainage at the New Mexico 128 New Mexico intersection area and the issues there that need to be addressed as part of this project. Then I'll switch to oil and gas activity. Just to give you an idea of some of the research that we've studied. This includes a heat map of oil and gas drilling activity in the US, and this was from 2014. One of the things we are doing behind the scenes right now is a 20-mile corridor study, 10 miles on each side of 31 and 128, working with the oil and gas industry, trying to predict or project, if you will, 5 years and 10 years out where their activities likely will be, so that that can help inform our road design and our intersection treatments to best position all of us for the future. We can really only go out about 10 years with any level of confidence. So that's why we're going out 5 and 10 years to try and work with the oil and gas partners and capture that important information as part of our study and project efforts. Now I'd like to switch back to Jennifer to talk about the New Mexico DOT project development process.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the process the NMDOT follows and their decision-making process. Currently, we are in the early stages of this project. We're in the study phase. For the NMDOT, this is called the Phase 1AB. During Phase 1AB, we identify what improvements are needed and why. We review the existing conditions and determine what potential options are available to improve the roadway. As the study progresses, we evaluate the options that may be feasible to carry through to design and eventual construction. We will continue to advance this study after this meeting, and your input is key to helping us come up with one preferred option that we advance into environmental processing and preliminary engineering design. We will answer your questions at the end of the presentation, which will be in approximately 20 minutes from now. As part of the study phase, NMDOT considers a wide range of factors in their decision-making. Some of these factors include right-of-way needs, environmental resources, traffic safety, construction feasibility, community concerns, engineering limitations, and available funding. Looking at a range of factors allows the NMDOT to develop a solution that is balanced and meets the purpose and need of the project. As part of the project, as mentioned earlier, is coordinating with the agencies and stakeholders that manage resources and lands in and around the corridor and may be affected by the project. This has included the community of JAL and their leadership, and we are glad to be able to be continuing to have the conversation with you. Next, I'd like to hand it back to Terry to talk about some of the preliminary and recommended alternatives for the section through JAL.
Thanks again, Jennifer. So I'd like to start with some key challenges as we look at developing alternatives. Traffic and safety, the New Mexico 128, New Mexico 18 intersection area, including the railroad crossing, the New Mexico 128 and 3rd Street intersection, safely maintaining traffic and access during construction, as Jennifer mentioned, funding, utility facilities, and stakeholder engagement, to name a few of our key challenges. So I'd like to do a little educational slide now about what is a typical section, because we're going to show you some typical sections. A typical section is a graphical representation of the proposed work as if you were standing at a location looking down the roadway. So here is a typical section of the recommended improvements in JAL. It's a 3-lane section with a 2-way left turn lane in the middle, or what we call a twiddle. So it's a 3-lane section with a 2-way left turn lane in the middle of the roadway. And again, we call that a twiddle. It matches basically the existing roadway configuration in JAL, except it's wider. We did look at a 4-lane section, and we screened that out working with city leadership because it would have required left turn movements from through travel lanes. We also looked at a 5-lane section, and that was screened out because it took a wider footprint. We will also consider the no build alternative or leave existing conditions as they are. So just a few of the details from this typical section. If you look at the typical section there, we have a 14-foot left turn lane in the middle. We have 13-foot driving lanes in each direction. We have 6-foot shoulders, 2.5-foot curb and gutter, and then a 3-foot buffer and a 5-foot sidewalk on each side. And one more note is that if you look at the top, there's a shift of 6 feet from existing roadway center line to new center line. And that's for helping maintain traffic and to better footprint this typical section within the corridor. And I'll show you more about that later on. So the twiddle layout in GEL, we'll show you that in a few slides. So what is a layout? When we get to that slide, it's when basically you're in the air looking down at what is proposed at this time to be built. That's what a layout is that we will show you again in a few slides of the entire corridor through GEL. We are offering virtual meetings with our project team for any abutting property owners of New Mexico 128 in the project area in GEL, where you get together with our team and we can talk specific details of any individual property or business. Those can be scheduled by contacting Jennifer Heyer, and she'll provide her contact information at the end of this presentation. Again, those are virtual meetings, individual property specific with property owners or businesses, where we can talk more detail in terms of your individual property or business concerns. We're also going to offer in-person meetings on site by the project team to those same New Mexico 128 abutting property owners or businesses. And we're scheduling the months of October through December to offer those. So those can be scheduled by contacting Jennifer again, and we'll give you her contact information at the end of this presentation. So this is just a view of a layout. When I pull it up, I'll go through the whole corridor in GEL, but it just gives you a feel for, again, you're in the air looking down on the improvements of the 3-lane twiddle or 2-way left turn lane alternative in GEL that we're recommending be moved forward for additional studies. Now I'd like to switch to talk about GEL construction, maintenance of traffic. And again, I will show you the 3-lane twiddle layout. So maintenance of traffic, we're striving to keep New Mexico 31 and 128 open during construction, including all access points. We'll coordinate closely with all stakeholders and businesses throughout this effort. The contractor will be expected to provide look-ahead schedules and anticipated traffic impacts during the construction phases that they're working on in these corridors, but there will likely be traffic delays during construction when we get underway. So I'm going to try and pull up some typical sections in the layout. Okay, Jennifer Heyer, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
So what we're looking at now is a typical section of the existing GEL roadway, showing the existing left turn lane in the middle. There's actually 12-foot driving lanes. So I showed you the new left turn lane is 14, driving lanes are 13. There's a 2-foot shoulder and we're going wider with 6 feet. So that just gives you an idea of existing conditions versus what we're proposing. And as we move to build the proposed roadway and maintain traffic, I just wanted to walk you through briefly how we would do that. So the first thing we're showing here is moving traffic to the south side, 1 lane each direction, and building a 20-foot piece on the north side. That's the construction zone in the first phase, 20 feet on the north side, again, with traffic in opposing direction, 12-foot lanes on the south side shifted over. After we get that first phase built, we would then move traffic to the outside. On the new 20-foot piece we built, we would put the westbound lanes. The existing eastbound would remain where it was, and we would work in the middle. So you can see the work zone in between traffic now in the corridor. Then finally, we would switch all traffic to the north side and finish construction on the south piece, the southerly piece, to give us our final configuration. That just gives you a feel from a construction and maintenance of traffic perspective how we would do that. So now let me try and pull up the roadway plot, the layout, if you will. And Jennifer, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the layout in GL, but I wanted to start with some description of what you're looking at. The orange line is existing right-of-way. The yellow is the middle lane. So here we're out at Continental Drive. We're showing an eastbound right turn lane to Continental. We're showing the actual entrances into Continental to the gel clinic being moved or shifted to the south. We're showing a sidewalk and a curb and gutter along Highway 128. So the curb and gutter would actually extend further out to the west, out to County Road 6 or Wyoming, but it gives you a feel for a sidewalk on the south side all the way out to Continental. There's no sidewalk yet on the north side, just curb and gutter. We are proposing to close this larger gel clinic entrance and have an entrance existing on the east side of that property with in and out movements here, as I've showed you off of Continental Drive. So that gives you an idea at the gel clinic, what we're planning. You can see new driveways where we're proposing them. That's what these squares are that you'll see as we go through the corridor. Those are new driveway locations, or rebuilt driveways, if you will. So as you're looking at a property here, again, the orange is right of way. The squares are new driveways into those properties. We're showing again the sidewalk on the south side. So here at 8th Street, we pick up a sidewalk on the north side. So there's sidewalks on both sides. So the sidewalk on the north side starts or ends, depending on which direction you're going, at 8th Street. As we move a little bit further to the east, give you a few more properties that you can look at. You can see how close the existing right-of-way gets to some of the buildings and facilities in the corridor. As we get to 6th Street, again, a few more properties we're showing, a few more entrance points. And we're moving now towards the 5th Street area. You can start to see some of the driveways. If they get beyond the orange line, we would need to acquire some form of right-of-way or temporary property to build off of right-of-way to give you an idea of what could come if you're seeing that driveway go beyond the right-of-way, the orange line. Here near 5th Street, there's an existing garage with the orange line going through it. So that's what we would call an encroachment that needs to be addressed as part of our project. We cannot leave an encroachment on the existing right-of-way or DOT right-of-way. So that will need to be addressed in some way, shape, or form as part of the project. We're at the 4th Street area now, and I'll continue on to 3rd. At 3rd Street, we're proposing so far in our study to add a signal. So you can start to see turn lanes, and we're designed this intersection with crossings for pedestrians. There's no pedestrian crossings west of here on 128. We have sidewalks along 3rd in both directions. These turn lanes are designed to allow opposing turn lanes to not conflict with each other. And we've been working closely with Allsups and their site planning here in terms of our layout at this intersection to make sure it's well coordinated with the efforts that's going on with them. So we've put a new entrance into Allsups where they plan to build it as part of their site planning. You can see on the south side how close the buildings are, the existing right of way, and how close we are there. So this gives you an idea of how that 6-foot shift in existing center line to new center line helps what we think best position the improvements in the corridor. Here's second. And as I move a little further, we'll look at the properties as we get closer to New Mexico 18. Here's that first, and we start to widen out and we start to introduce some solid concrete median in the middle so that we can have cantilevered railroad crossings, arms there. So these are overhead, if you will, railroad crossing structures with concrete median for the railroad crossing near 18. Here's the intersection of New Mexico 18, again, a signalized intersection with pedestrian crosswalk markings. We would like to talk to the businesses in these quadrants about access. There's some challenges with entrances and driveways. We may need, I'll just go down a little bit. We may need to close some accesses on the southerly 18 approach and allow access into these properties off of 128 because we need to have concrete median and a longer left turn lane here at New Mexico 18. And again, this concrete median extends along 128 in front of these service facilities. So it will change traffic flow predominantly out of these facilities. Left turns won't be able to cross that area because there's a concrete median there. So we'll need to, again, plan and work with our partners on that. And I'm going to take you all the way out to Schooley to give you a feel for the improvements. We're continuing with the middle left turn lane. We have driveways that, again, if they go off the right of way, you can see how they go off the right of way. Here we're starting to a little bit of curvature as we get further out, and just a little bit further, we'll get out to Schooley. Just bear with us. It's a big file in the background, so I apologize for the delay in loading a little bit, but bear with me. Okay, just a little more. And if you have some of these properties here and you want a little more detail, and we kind of skipped over them, certainly get in touch with Jennifer and we can have a one-on-one virtual meeting with you. Another driveway location here. And I think we're coming up to Kazar Lane. And again, I apologize for the loading. But I believe this is Kazar. Yeah, and we're actually recommending closing Kazar with putting curb and gutter through Kazar. And ultimately out at Schooley here. This will load and it'll be the last piece. We're showing turn lanes. We're showing ending the curb and gutter. So there'll be a rural section, if you will, beyond Schooley, and basically ending the center left turn lane throughout JAL at Schooley. So we pick up a 2-lane rural section with turn lanes here, but taper to a 2-lane section beyond here. So with that, Brittany, do you want to take things back and take control? Okay, next slide. So design, build, procurement phase 1 and project phasing. I'm going to switch gears now to talk about project delivery and design build. So Michael Smelker at the start talked about design build. Our first phase of construction is planned to be a design build project, but I want to start with phasing. So next slide, please. This gives you an idea of the overall potential phasing of the project. There's roughly 83 miles. It likely will not be done as one project. And this gives you funding size, an idea of funding sized segments where each segment could potentially be funded and delivered as a separate project, or these segments could be combined and delivered as larger projects. So that gives the New Mexico DOT a lot of flexibility as we move forward. So what is design build? It's a procurement method where the DOT hires a team to complete the design and construct the project. Why does New Mexico DOT want to use design build for this project? Basically, construction can start sooner as compared to the New Mexico DOT finishing all design first before they start construction. And design build projects tend to move at a faster pace. So we could be under construction with a design build project as soon as sometime in the latter part of next year. It will look like a traditional project with a contractor more involved in public outreach and key items such as environmental compliance and utility coordination. Project goals with this design build initial phase one, a high quality, safe, environmentally responsible, durable, and maintainable project. Minimum disruption to the local industries and traveling public during construction, a design build agreement or contract awarded to the design build team and signed by fall of 2022. And we want to maximize the value of the design build delivery method. The overall corridor improvements, as I mentioned, will be phased. New Mexico DOT will procure a single design build team to design and construct the initial first phase of the project. The design build project will have alternatives based on funding availability, and New Mexico DOT will use a best value approach to select the design build team. So the design build phase will be federally funded and consist of the following base elements: improvements to New Mexico 31 from 0.5 miles east of US 285 through the New Mexico 128 intersection, including the New Mexico 128 intersection. This is a funded project being delivered by the design build procurement method with an estimated cost of $70 to $80 million. Now the design build alternatives. The City of Jal improvements we're talking about tonight with an estimated cost of 16 to 19 million. New Mexico 128 from New Mexico 31 through the Whip Road, estimated cost of 40 to 45 million to that 10 plus miles. New Mexico 31 and 128 site safety improvements, so spot safety improvements, estimated at $2 to $10 million. This suite or portfolio of alternatives could be added into the design build contract if funding is secured even after the design build contract is executed and things are underway with the base funded project. So I'd like to turn it now back to Jennifer.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate that. Some good information there. I'm going to talk a little bit about schedule and next steps for the project. The project study for the overall New Mexico 31-128 corridor began in the fall of 2020, and it's anticipated that we will complete that by November or December of this year, 2021. We held our first public meeting 2 weeks ago on August 31st, and tonight we're having the public meeting specific to the improvements proposed in the community of Jal. As the study advances, we plan to have another public meeting in the early part of 2022 to discuss the alternative that is being moved forward. We've already started some preliminary engineering and environmental study this summer, which we will carry into spring 2022. We anticipate construction of the first phasing to start as soon as fall or winter 2022. As Terry mentioned, this phase will be a design build delivery method. Construction of additional priority areas will be phased and the timing adjusted depending on available funding. For next steps, we're currently gathering public input now. We will continue to do so after our public meeting today and for the next 30 days. We are performing a detailed evaluation of alternatives, which will allow us to finish and finalize the Phase 1AB study. As the project advances, as I mentioned, we will have another public meeting to help us refine the alternative. We will continue initial engineering and continue to advance the environmental studies. We'll also be identifying right-of-way acquisition needs that will then allow the team to develop the design build contract documents, such as the request for qualifications and the request for proposals. That will then allow us to go through the procurement process and select a design build contractor team. Once selected, construction will begin on Phase 1. Well, now that you've heard from us, we'd like to hear from you. But before we open up our question and answer portion of tonight's event, I want to give you information on how you can contact me and reach me to provide me with your comments, your thoughts, your questions. If you are a property or business owner abutting the New Mexico 128 corridor in JAL and would like to schedule a virtual meeting, I would love for you to contact me. There's a couple different ways that you can reach me. I can be reached by telephone, which is area code 505-878-6577. I can be reached by email, which is jennifre.wsp.com. You can also send it through the U.S. Postal Service. However, we do prefer any of your comments, questions, concerns. We do prefer that you submit those electronically, if at all possible, since most of us are still teleworking at this time. Additionally, to help us with moving the project forward, we're asking that you do provide us with your comments by October 15th, so that way we can continue moving the project forward. As I mentioned earlier, we will have a recording of tonight's public meeting, a recording of the public meeting from 2 weeks ago on August 31st, and a lot of other project-related information on the NMDOT project website. I encourage you to go and look at that if you haven't already. That website is nm31-128project.nmdotprojects.org. You can also contact me if you wish to request a paper copy of tonight's presentation as well. Thank you to everyone that has joined us this evening, taken some time out of your evening to sit with us and listen to what we had to present to you. We're very grateful. We wish we could have been with you in person, but we are glad to be able to offer a safe way to meet with you and introduce you to what's ahead. There will be future opportunities to be joining in the conversation, providing us with input and comments, and hearing about the project. So you will be seeing us again in the future. And we're pretty much wrapped up with tonight's presentation. Thank you for joining. Please stay safe and good night.